Welcome students. This is the video lecture for object oriented programming subject. So this object oriented programming subject is part of the AC computer syllabus. It has an in-sem paper of 30 marks, end-sem paper of 70 marks. In-sem paper is based on 2 units, end-sem paper is based on last 4 units. The first unit is containing the name as Fundamentals of Object Oriented Programming. So in this unit you are going to study all the fundamentals of object oriented programming and C++. Particularly this subject is explaining the language C++ for as an example of an object oriented programming language. So you will be studying basically C++ and object oriented programming concepts in this particular subject. Remember, object oriented programming concepts are not limited only to C++. Many programming language, high level programming languages are basically related to object oriented programming. So C++ is one of the object oriented programming language. Other languages like Java, C#, .NET are also object oriented programming languages. Python. So there are many languages which use object oriented programming concepts. So many of the concepts that you learn in this subject are applicable in some or different way in other object oriented programming languages also. But specifically speaking, in this subject we are going to learn more about C++ as a language for object oriented programming. So brief, this is the syllabus of first unit. So you are going to learn many concepts about object oriented programming like namespaces, objects, classes, data members, methods, and so on. And then you are going to learn about C++ programming basics like data types, structures, enumerations, control structures, arrays and strings, class, object, data abstraction, access specifier, and some functions related concepts also you are going to learn in this unit. So this is just a brief introduction to what you will study in unit 1 of object oriented programming. Okay. So the first topic is introduction to OOP paradigm, that is object oriented programming paradigm. So object oriented programming is a programming paradigm based on the concept of objects which can contain data in the form of fields often known as attributes or properties, and code in the form of procedures often known as methods or functions. So basically object oriented programming uses objects. The main part of object oriented programming is objects, which is an instance of a class. These objects contain data in the form of variables. Basically they are called as attributes or properties. So as you know in programming, so the class contains variables which is part of the object. It also contains procedures which are called as methods or functions. So a object basically contains data, that is variables, and methods or functions. Okay. Then the next concept is introduction to procedure oriented programming. So basically what is procedure oriented programming? Example of procedure oriented programming language is C. So emphasis is on doing things, that is algorithms. In basically a procedure oriented programming, emphasis is on doing things, execution of things. Large programs are divided into smaller programs known as functions. So in procedure oriented programming, large programs are divided into smaller programs known as functions. Most of the functions share global data. So most of the functions in procedure oriented programming share the global data. Data move openly around the system from function to function. So basically data moves around from function to function. Okay. So basically the program is made up of functions and the functions share the global data. Okay, so to break down the program into parts, the program is divided into functions and the global data is shared by all functions. Functions transform data from one form to another. So functions basically do some processing on the data and generate the output of that function. Now basically it employs top-down approach in program design. So procedure-oriented programming uses a top-down approach in program design. Okay. So this is a diagram showing how basically the relationships are there between the functions in a procedure-oriented programming language. Example of the language can be C language. So there are functions basically, and they have their own local data also, and they share all the global data of the particular program. So the functions share all the global data in the program between them, and they also have their own local data. So variable declared within the function are local data and globally declared variables are global data. Okay, so global data is basically shared across all the functions. Now the next concept is limitations of procedural programming. The program code is harder to write. So it is very difficult to write programs using procedural programming as compared to object-oriented programming, obviously. The procedural code is not often reusable, which may pose the need to recreate the code if is needed to use in another application. So the procedural code is not often reusable. You cannot reuse the code in other parts of other programs. So it may pose a need to recreate the code if needed in another application. So another application will again have to repeat the same code to basically use that particular code in that application. So it is not reusable procedure oriented programming. Then difficult to relate with real world objects. So basically procedural programming is not basically mapping with real world objects. The importance is given to the operation rather than the data, which might pose issues in some data sensitive cases. So more importance is given to operation rather than data. So where data is important or needed to be secure, that is not supported by procedure oriented programming as much as it is supported in object oriented programming. The data is exposed to the whole program, making it not so much security friendly. So since the data gets exposed to the whole program, the global data particularly is exposed to the entire functions in the program. So doesn't make it security friendly basically. Whereas object oriented programming is supporting security of data. Object oriented programming benefits now. OOP mimics the real world, making it easier to understand. So basically object oriented programming mimics the real world. All the entities in the real world are objects. So any entity in the real world can be mapped to an object. So it becomes easier to make code of such a particular real world application. OOP codes are reusable in other programs. So basically OOP code can be reused in another program. So reusability is supported in OOP programs. Security is offered due to use of data hiding and abstraction mechanism. So security is also available in object-oriented programming using data hiding and abstraction. So there are access specifiers which can be used for data hiding, like private access specifier can be used to hide data from basically outside world. So security is provided in object-oriented programming. Due to modularity and encapsulation, OOP offers ease of management. So due to modularity and encapsulation, OOP offers a ease of management. So within the class, there are methods which are used for basically writing the code and data are bind together in one class. So that is called as encapsulation. So modularity and encapsulation offers ease of management of the particular programs. Now speaking about how the organization of data and functions are there in OOP can be diagrammatically represented in this way in an OOP paradigm. So let's say there are three objects, object A, object B and object C. Then these communicate through function calling. Okay, and basically the data in every object. So every object contains data and functions which communicate with each other through message passing. Okay, and object A, objects B, object C can communicate with each other, but the data of object A is not accessible to the outside world if it is declared as private. So it is providing security of data in object oriented programming. Yes, you can give access if you want by giving access specifiers like protected and public. Particularly public is given to give access to the outside world for the data. So depending on your requirement, the programmer can decide how he wants to give access of his data, whether he wants to give it to the outside world or not. So all these facilities are provided in object oriented programming. So speaking about fundamentals of object oriented programming, first concept is namespaces. A namespace is a declarative region that provides a scope to the identifiers, the name of types, functions, variables, etc. inside it. So basically, in namespace you can declare variables, functions, etc. in a namespace. Okay, so it provides a declarative region that provides a scope to the identifiers. So scope to all these things is provided by a namespace. Namespaces are used to organize code into logical groups and to avoid and to prevent name collisions that can occur, especially when your code base includes multiple libraries. So to avoid name collisions and group the code into logical groups, namespaces are used basically. Example, using namespace std. So std is the namespace where ANSI C++ standard class libraries are defined. So that is an example of standard namespace. Using namespace std, we do that in every C++ program. So in every C++ program you see this statement using namespace std. Here std is the namespace where ANSI C++ standard class libraries are defined. So standard class libraries of C++ are defined within the namespace std. Okay. So defining a namespace, how do we actually define a namespace? So we give this keyword namespace and then the name of the namespace, namespace underscore name, opening curly brackets, closing curly brackets. Within that the code of the namespace is given. So whatever the logical group you want to arrange in this namespace is written within the opening and closing curly brackets. So this is a sample program showing the use of namespace. So using namespace std, then we have declared a namespace first space, opening curly brackets, closing curly brackets, within that a function func, and then there is a second namespace with keyword namespace given and name second space. Again it contains func function as the function in the namespace. So when you call the namespace, you can give first space namespace name colon name of the function. This will execute the function in the namespace first space. And when you say second space colon function, it will execute the function func function in the second namespace. So you can give the call the particular function using namespace name, scope resolution operator colon and name of the function. So you are arranging multiple functions in different namespaces and you can manage those particular access to those functions using the namespace. So thank you student for attending today's video lecture. We'll continue in the next video lecture.